So in this video, I'm going to do a little something different. I've been doing a lot of virtual demos lately, and one of the ones that I recently did was differentiating yourself in the world of pen making. And so what I want to do is I want to take some of that video and I want to chop it up basically, and I want to give it to you in 10-minute chunks. And so I gotta warn you right up front, make sure that, if there's a little bit of a context switch in the middle of the video, please understand that this was a video that I did and that I'm now using it on this channel. But I think some of this stuff is going to be a lot of fun, and a lot of it isn't really hard to do. In today's demo, we're going to talk about making an aluminum pen. And I know the first question you're going to have is, can I make an aluminum pen on a wooden lathe? And the answer is going to be yes, and we're going to take you through it. So with that, I'm going to immediately jump into the video, and I think this one's going to be a fun one, and I encourage you to actually try this technique and make the pen. So now this next pen we're going to do, it's going to look complicated, it's going to look like something you can't do on a wood lathe. I'm going to show you it's really, really easy, and it's another simple pen and another one to have in your arsenal. It's this, it's an aluminum pen. And I know you think, that's going to be hard to turn on a wooden lathe, and I've got a picture here, I'll show it to you. It's really not that hard. The key to it is going to be not in the turning. The key to it is going to be in how we set it all up and how we do the drilling. The drilling is the key to this pen. So give me a second, we'll come right back and let's start and let's take a look at how we do the drilling on this pen. Alright, as I said, to do this aluminum blank, the hardest part is going to be in the prep work. The actual turning is going to be pretty easy. We're going to use carbide tools. You're going to see it's not a big challenge. But one of the things that you have to think about when you're doing this one is your tube size, your diameter, and what size piece of aluminum you're going to use. So here, if you take a look at the first time that I ever did it, this was a piece of aluminum that I picked up at Home Depot. And you can see here, if I measure it up, it's about, a little bit over 3/4 of an inch. And I realized that when I was turning it, that's a lot of turning to be doing. And so, you can use, the tools are going to be fine, it's just going to take you a lot longer. So then I switched up here, and now I just use a much smaller piece. It's a 1/2 inch piece of aluminum rod, and I pick it up right on Amazon. And one of the jigs that I made for cutting tubes, if you do a lot of blank making and you're gonna cut your own tubes, or you're gonna do a lot of casting, one of the things that I made was a jig here where you can see it rides in my bandsaw, and there's a little kerf in here in my bandsaw, and there's a little spot for the miter gauge, and it'll slide up and down. And then I took it over to my table saw and I made a nice kerf in here. So I think this is two shots of my 1/8 inch kerf blade that's in there. And then these, it's any kind of stopper that you want to find. I found that I had these Pergo floor pieces that when I buckled them up together, made it perfect. So then all I need to do when I want to cut new tubes or cut anything down to size is I'll take this over, I'll put the tube in here, I'll have the tube basically kiss the blade, and then I'll take a hammer, knock these over, get it to where I want. So in this case, this is the size tube that we're going to put it in. So then I take my piece of aluminum, walk it over to my bandsaw, and I cut it right through. You don't need a special blade on there, but you do need safety, right? I will wear a full face mask. Those shards are going to be sharp, and they are going to be coming off. So when I'm done, I'm going to get a tube that's ready to go, and it's the exact size, it's a hair bigger than the tube that I'm going to use. But now we're going to drill it, and then we're going to face it, and we're going to turn it. So let's get to the drilling aspect of it. All right. So now that we have the blank and we've got it cut, now we're going to go into the drilling process. And I'm going to talk a little bit about technique when we get into the actual drilling process. But let me give you a little quick overview, and I'm going to go over these steps again. The drilling process is a little bit more complicated than just putting the drill bit in the tailstock, smashing it up, and cranking it in. We're going to go through some step-by-steps. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of do a two-step process. I'm going to go into a reaming technique, and first what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the blank. I know that my hole dimension has to be 10.5 millimeters, but I'm going to start with my first cut at only 3/8 of an inch. That's going to allow me to drill through the blank, and then if there is any play in there, when I'm going through with that 10.5, it's going to act as a reamer. And that's how we're going to get into it, and that's how we're going to actually get our drilling done. So before we do that, we got to talk a little bit about how are we going to hold the piece on the lathe. And if you see here, we're going to use a 4-jaw chuck. I like the Easy Wood chuck. You can simply put it in there, take my piece, lock it down in there, and I can drill through that way. If you're not familiar though with the features of the Easy Wood chuck, let me give you an idea of some of the other cool things that you can do with it. So if you're going to do a lot of pen work, you may want to have some extra jaws. So if I'm doing pens or I'm doing bowls, I may want to switch out on the jaws. And the real advantage of this Easy Wood chuck is how quick the jaws are to replace. So if I want to use these jaws up in here, which are going to hold it a little bit longer, I'll simply come in here, put my tool at about a 45-degree angle, pop it down, that jaw pops out, this jaw, simply align it where I want, lock it in. Take it, pop it down, that jaw pops out, take it, push my new jaw in, lock it in, press down on that jaw, and I'm going to go through the same process. The cool thing about the jaws are, you can see here when I pull this one out, these are numbered, but the jaws, like a traditional chuck, you always have to have the jaws and have the jaws put back in the right place. Because of the way that this is precision ground, you don't have to worry about it. I'm simply going to take my jaw, lock it in, and I'm ready to go. And this thing has a real nice feature here. It's got a speed ring. And I don't know if you can see it really well. So I'll do it a little slower. I can rough this down and rough it in really quick before I then have to go through and use my tool to lock it in. So it's just my personal preference. I'm showing you a couple different ways that you can do things on this video. So my preference is going to be that I use the Easy Wood chuck. And now let's get into the drilling. So first, a little quick intro to the drilling process. And I know that everybody thinks all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tailstock, I'm going to put my drill bit in there, my Jacobs chuck, and I'm going to press it up against there, lock it down, and I'm going to start to turn. And if you watch Dick Sing's videos, which is where I've learned this technique about how to get a perfect center in something, we're going to do it a little differently. What we're going to do is we're going to turn the lathe on. It's going to start its spin, but I'm not going to lock my tailstock down. I'm slowly going to let my tailstock move in. When it makes that first touch or its kiss, you're going to see that it's going to lock in, and then I'm going to lock it down and then do my turn. The reason for that is no matter what you have and how new this is or how expensive it is, there's always a little bit of play. There's always play in the tailstock, and there has to be, right? There has to be play in the tailstock for the tailstock to move a little bit. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to let the bit self-center it, lock it in, and then we're going to go from there. Now the second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a smaller drill bit. I'm going to start with a 3/8 inch drill bit. That's going to give me the shot to go through there, get it all lined up. Then I'm going to call out my 10.5, and I'm going to have it, and I'm going to use it as a reamer. So let's take a look at that, and let's get this down to drilling. Alright, I'm wearing my safety shield, and let's get down into the drilling. As I said, I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to let it come up to speed. Once I know that it's up to speed, I'm slowly going to move my tailstock up. It's loose right now. Slowly move it up. Once I see that it catches or it kisses the blank, and I know that it's centered, then I'm slowly going to move my drill into it, lock my tailstock down, and then I'm slowly going to move my drill into it. So there we have it up to speed. I don't know if you can see when it... And now I'm slowly just letting it cut itself out. Alright, so now I know that I got my hole with the 3/8 inch drill bit drilled all the way through. Now I'm going to do is I'm simply going to pull out my 3/8 inch drill bit. I'm going to chuck out my 10.5. And the nice thing about doing it this way is now the 10.5 just basically becomes a reamer, right? It's only going to go through there, and it's just going to take off anything that it has to. So if there was any kind of little bit of play in there when I was doing that first initial setup and that first initial cut through it, it's going to take that completely away. So I'm going to move this up. I'm going to get it reasonably close. And now I'm going to turn my lathe back on. And here we go. Let it make a little bit of initial contact. So now that we got our blank drilled, we're ready to just put it in. I'm going to use 5-minute epoxy like I use anything else. If you need any questions about how to glue a tube into it, I do have a 10-minute video out there, under 10 minutes to better pen making, where you can take a look at some of my gluing techniques. But I'm simply going to put glue on the brass tube, and I'm going to put it in there. I may have mentioned this earlier, but the nice thing about using the brass tube, it's still going to give me the compression so that when we need to be pressing in our fittings on that one. So with that, let's go right into the turning and let's get this pen done. So as I said on the intro, when I was actually preparing the blank for this aluminum blank, the real work was in the drilling. The actual turning and the getting it down isn't going to be that complicated because we were able to actually get a blank and do a precision drill into it so that I don't have a lot. And if you look at here, I really am not going to be taking a lot off this pen. I'm going to be running it here. Now the whole thing to this one though is carbide is really going to be important. It's going to be carbide that's going to allow me to make these cuts and make these cuts efficiently. If you do need any kind of lubricant on it, or if you think that it's cutting slow, it's not uncommon for me to use WD-40 to give it a little bit of a spray on there. It will also back off the heat a little bit and allow me to make that cut. So this one, the most important thing that we're going to do now is we are going to wear a safety shield, and we're going to cut it with all kind of safety precautions going on because we don't want any of these aluminum shards to be traveling anywhere. So I'm going to put this on. I've got my mask going. I am going to crank it up to probably the max speed I'll crank it up to, and you'll see we'll be able to turn this one pretty easily. And then you'll actually find that sanding aluminum and going through the sanding steps, not hard at all. And then there's one little trick at the end that we're going to do to make this thing look spectacular. So there we go, we got it going on. One thing to notice is I'm not taking a lot of heavy cuts. I'm going really, really small. You can see here that my shavings are very, very small, but I'm already almost down to my bushing. So if you've watched any of my videos, I'm going to do the technique where I'm going to find my bushing. I'm going to roll myself into it so that I don't undercut. So I know that I'm right on my bushings now. Now I'm going to take a couple final pass cuts on here. There you go, I'm right on it. And I actually survived the one final cut. So you can see I'm right on it. So I'm actually going to run through all my sandpapers, and I'm going to sand it down, and then we'll actually do the final little trick on here. So I might cut through this a little bit quicker. When I'm sanding this aluminum, you might be able to see it on here. There is a little spot here. That spot I know is my low spot right here. So I am going to focus a little bit more on the sandpaper to get rid of that low spot. And what I think is really, really important when I'm doing this is now I'm going to stop the lathe, and with every single grit, I am going to go the other way. I'm going to run through my micro mesh, pull a little bit of water out, and then I got one final little trick that'll really make this thing come out looking great. And so yeah, there is a little bit of a slurry. Same pattern as with my dry, every third or fourth, maybe even second. As I get down on them, I am going to work them the other way. And yes, I have special micro mesh. This micro mesh will not be going back on wood or anything else. I use this micro mesh, this set, specifically for doing my aluminums. But you can see there are no scratches at all. Last three pads are usually the buffing pads. So I will do them both in both directions. Doesn't take me that much longer. Probably had I been smart, which, you know, I don't know that I'm going to be accused of here, I would have covered up my little pad there so you can see it a little bit better. Or sorry, so I wouldn't have wrecked my... There we go. So now I'm going to take a little bit of blue paper towel. You can kind of just see the gunk that I'm getting off of it. So I'm turning it up higher. The gunk that's coming off. The slurry, but I don't know if you can see it, it looks just gorgeous. So let me crank it and tighten it. And I'll be back in 1 second. So now I'm back, and here's the secret weapon. Mother's mag and aluminum polish. And I don't know if you can see on here, it looks kind of nice, but I'm going to take this, I'm going to get a little bit of it on my blue shop towel, put it on just a little slow, kind of let it just cream and foam in. You can see it darkens it up. You're just pulling out all the colorant on there. I don't know if you can see it. This pen is spectacular. So if I want to put on a if I want to buff out just a hair more, so there you go. There was really nothing to making an aluminum pen. And I will go assemble this and put this together. I will forewarn you that you may go, you know what, why don't I just use my buffing wheel? Let me just tell you, I learned the hard way that buffing the metal on the buffing wheel will do a spectacular job. But it's going to color, it will color your wheels. So if you're fine with that, you're going to be fine. But if not, let me go get this thing assembled. And I'll throw a picture up. As with all my videos, I thank you and I thank you for watching. So, if you like the video, please give me a like. If you want to subscribe and you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. And most importantly, two things. If you have questions or comments, please put them down in the questions and comments. If you have suggestions, put them down in the comment section also. This was simply the way I do things. It's not the way to do things. And if you have a better way of doing it or something that you want to contribute, please put it in the comment section. Also in the comment section, give me any kind of other topics you'd like me to cover. As I said in other videos, I have friends that might be able to cover it if I can't cover it. And finally, I started a Facebook group called 10 Minutes to Better Pen Making. It's going to be the easiest way to get in touch with me or ask me any kind of questions or have any suggestions for further videos. Please join that group on Facebook. As always, I thank you for watching. This video made possible by the fine folks at Exotic Blanks. For all your pen making needs, Exotic Blanks has you covered. Find them at www.exoticblanks.com. And also by Pen Makers International, the educational source for pen making.